is also to do with the values, so I'll take this one. As we know the value of values and the pathway also, the destination is clear. Could you please tell us how to inspire children to go in this path? How do you inspire children? So the best, again, children these days, they don't want to be told any day probably, but in those days it was much easier to talk to children. These days, children especially, they don't want to be told to do things. Even in the society, it's always a society of questioning, why? From young they start, why, what, why? So all of this will come. If you preach to them values, if you preach to the kids values, I don't think it is going to work. Preaching values will not work. Now, teaching values is different from preaching. If you say, do this, because Bhagavad Gita says you should not do this. Bhagavad Gita says you should do this. If you say like that to the children, they won't be able to understand. So the best way is to be a living example. If the children are in your life, they're your children, the best way is to be a living example. Children are most observant, the most observant beings on this planet. They learn by observation. They learn by hearing. They pick up. You may think they're not listening, but that little 4-year-old can repeat everything you had the conversation in the other room. It hears everything and it registers it as well. So it is very, very important that instead of telling the child all the time this value, you live the value. Let the child see your example. Quietly, it observes how the parents behave. Quietly observes how the elders behave. We can, of course, talk as well to the children, but the more potent way is to show by behavior. And Bhagavan also in the Bhagavad Gita, again, he brings this up in not with children, but he says, Yat yat acharati shreshtaha tattadeve taro janaha sayat pramanam kurute lokastadanu vartate. He says here that however a leader or however an elder will behave, so the people below will follow. However the person behaves, the people below him will follow. The people who look up to that person will follow. They will take that person's behavior and the person's words, the way that person is, as a role model in their life. So it is making yourself a role model for the children that you want, these values to go into. Talking and telling them all the time to do something, that is not going to help very much, I feel, in the long run, because they have the tendency to rebel and ask, questions, why, all of this. Other people are not following values. Why should I? That always comes. Other people, my friends don't do all of that and they look quite happy. Why should I do it? But Swami often used to say, make your life a rose that speaks silently in the language of fragrance. Very beautiful saying. So let people experience you, the way you live your life. You can inspire. Living a life of values is the fragrance of the rose. So a rose doesn't need to force everybody to smell the fragrance, right? The fragrance is natural. It is part of the rose. So make your life a rose that lives in the language of fragrance.